Okay, so here's how I want to describe what we're actually doing on a nervous system level and an energetic level in our somatic therapy sessions. What's actually happening and what is this deep work that we're doing? And I've been explaining it in this way that has been having some light bulbs go off for people. So I wanted to share it with you as you're looking at this potential experience of somatic therapy, wondering if it's right for you and wondering what are we actually doing and what's it based on. Somatic therapy is very broad, and right now I'm just going to talk about a very specific set of experiences that happen within our sessions. So, our brain and our body are constantly on the lookout, determining our safety versus our sense of threat. And this is a subconscious, unconscious process that happens. Our brain is always scanning for our sense of safety and our sense of threat. It is highly, highly concerned with our survival. And a series of mechanisms happen when our brain senses threat. You might know this as fight or flight, right? But these are not just external threats. This can also be internal experiences of uncertainty, conflict, illness or pain, or even trauma, right? Things that we're carrying that we don't even necessarily remember or know that we're carrying because it's being held at this subconscious level. It's not necessarily in our conscious mind, but our body remembers, right? So again, our brain is always scanning our sense of safety versus our sense of threat. And when there's a threat in our environment or in our inner world, our body sends off a cascade of hormones, energetic processes, gets us ready, right? Prepared, tenses our muscles. There's a lot of physiological changes that happen. This is our fight or flight response, right? And you're probably already very aware of this and you know what it feels like to be activated, right? And when something happens in our lives that requires us to activate, and this doesn't even have to be a life or death situation, right? It could be somebody cuts us off in traffic, or we've been worrying about our finances. One of our kids is acting up these days. There's this threat, right? And so our brain initiates this cycle of activation. And it stays in activation until we can tell our brain or our body that it's over. It's a lot of information, right? So, if our brain and our body can never remember or realize that the threat is over, then we can never come out of that activated response into a safer, what's called parasympathetic, more connected. It's safer to be ourselves. It's safer to connect with other people. We can have that sense of relief and relax and let go. That's what we're all looking for, right? When we live in a world that everywhere we look, there is a threat, right? With the level of expectations, the pace, the economy, our workloads, our family life, world events, conflict, right? Climate change. There are all these things happening that our brain clocks as a threat. And then internally, we might have uncertainty in our lives. We might have trauma that is unresolved that's still impacting us. We might have pain or illness. All of this is clocked as a threat. So that's why we stay in this heightened response all the time. And part of this heightened response is always trying to figure it out. We're always trying to understand, how could we just be better? How could we just fix ourselves? If we could just figure it out with our mind, then everything would be better, right? But that's kind of a fallacy, because what actually needs to happen is we need to close this loop. Our body wants to activate and then release. Our stress response wants to activate respond, right? And then rest. What we're doing together in session is helping your nervous system to identify that the threat is over, because our system gets stuck in this threat response. And so sometimes that might look like helping your body to come out of this hyperactivated state from your day or from the stressors in your life. And oftentimes this looks like coming back to a deeply held activation, something at some point in your life that was too much, too fast, and a lot of activation, a lot of need to respond. It's called a trauma, right? When something is too much, too fast, too soon. You can think of it in this energetic way that like a lot of energy that gets created to respond, but it's too much. So there's another part of us that basically freezes this moment in time and kind of puts it away for when it's safe enough to unpack that and move through that activation, that traumatic energy. So that's what we're doing. In the safest, slowest, most respectful way possible, we're finding these places inside of your field, inside of your system, that are stuck in a feeling of threat. And then we're reminding them that actually in this present moment, you're safe enough. And that can look like a lot of different things, right? And so we follow this activation cycle. So we startle, orient, respond, release, rest, right? And so at any point in this activation cycle, we can get stuck. So I help you move out of the stuckness through whatever fear or energy is held within that freeze, within that pocket that got put away. And then beyond there, your system can turn off that threat response. And then you feel this sense of relief, right? This sense that, okay, actually maybe there's no need to try to figure everything out right now. And then new possibilities emerge, new ways of being. And we can have different responses that feel more true and centered to ourselves. And so this, in a nutshell, is the main thing that we're working on together. It's very much a collaboration. So I'm curious, what do you think of this? Send me a message. Let me know. Does this resonate with you? Does it feel like, yeah, that is something that names my experience? Or maybe not. I'd love to hear either way.